When Leafpaw emerged into the clearing, she saw that Squirrelpaw had already dumped a rabbit at the mouth of Cinderpelt's den. Her sister gave it an admiring sniff and meowed. "You might at least say I did well to catch it." She still sounded indignant, but she didn't meet Leafpaw's gaze when she spoke. "You did," Leafpaw admitted. "It's huge. Especially as you had such a disturbed night," she added more sharply. Squirrelpaw froze. Only her green eyes moved, flicking up to rest on her sister's face. "Who said I did?" "I know you did. You were awake nearly all night. What was the matter? It was more than a short hunt, I know that." Squirrelpaw dropped her eyes to the ground. "Oh, I ate a frog late in the evening," she muttered. "It must have disagreed with me, that's all." Leafpaw unsheathed her claws and dug them into the rain-softened earth. Inwardly, she was fighting to stay calm. She knew that Squirrelpaw was lying to her, and part of her wanted to start wailing like a kit. "You're my sister. You should trust me." Spencer Grant, and you're listening to Fourtrees, a Warrior Cats community podcast. This week, I am joined by Alex Turner to discuss the book Midnight. Alex, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'm good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I can't tell if like your audio cut out there or if the answer to the question "How are you doing?" was yeah.
Yeah, it was yeah.
Okay, cool.
I meant I'm alright.
No. I think yeah works better. So Alex, this is your first book ever. Am I correct in assuming?
Yeah, I've never read a Warrior Cats book before.
Or really many books, full stop. If I had to.
Yeah,
guess.
Before this, I didn't know how to read.
That's really impressive. I'm really proud of you for putting this in front of you. Can you tell me a little bit about your history with the Warrior Cats series?
I didn't know what they were, and then you told me you made a podcast on them, and then I said I wanted to be on the podcast, and then I read this book, and now I'm confused.
Did you read the book?
I've read like 80% of it.
All right, that's more of the book than I expected you to read. Let's get into the synopsis of Midnight, if we shall. So, do you remember what happens in the beginning? Like,
they gather around and elect some people for something, but I wasn't clear what the thing they were electing was for.
It's mysterious, Alex. That's like the point. They're
okay.
They're Starclan.
Me not understanding
cats.
is going to be a recurring point though, because this book doesn't explain much.
Why should it? You read the original series, didn't you? All right, so the cats of Starclan, learning of a new danger, convene to decide which 4 cats they are to send a message to, warning them of said danger in extremely vague terms. And then we have this character called Brambleclaw, who was from the previous arc. He was Firestar's old apprentice and also the son of a murderess.
I didn't pick up on that.
They don't talk about it very much, which is really weird. Because, Firestar is kind of the closest thing that Brambleclaw ever had to a real dad, aside from his other dad, Tigerstar, who is a murderous fascist. I don't know if they mentioned that in the book.
There are cat Nazis?
Picked up on that.
Yeah, no, I do. I remember something about some dogs being brought in by his dad or something.
Yes.
I didn't really understand.
His dad killed a bunch of, rabbits on Thunderclan territory and then left them as, a trap, so that he could attract some wild dogs to come in and destroy Thunderclan. He is a cat fascist, and then later on he becomes the leader of Shadowclan, which is their Slytherin kind of, and that's super fun and cool, and everybody loves that. And then he gets destroyed by another outside threat that he lures into the forest, and Firestar goes and saves the day, and he's this big hero and stuff. But he's not the protagonist anymore, so we don't care about him. Now we've got Brambleclaw, and in Brambleclaw's dreams, he encounters Bluestar, who tells him that he must meet with 3 other cats at the new moon and listen to what Midnight tells him. He awakens to his daily life in Thunderclan. He goes and visits some new kits in the nursery. But while he's there, he's asked to look after Squirrelpaw, Firestar's irritating daughter. And Squirrel Paw is like a little bit of a smart aleck, and she does not respect Brambleclaw very much because she's like a Thunderclan princess, kind of. And that evening, Brambleclaw is like, man, I wish that the cat who talked to me in my dreams would have said something useful and not vague so that I wouldn't have to worry about whether or not it's true. Because that is like basically what he does. He gets like a warning and then he doesn't do anything about it.
He doesn't want to make it come true, I think is what he says.
I guess, but like...
You think he says it's just a dream?
Of course.
If that's their religion, which is another thing I didn't really pick up on, but if that's their religion, then surely he'd understand that it was a warning.
So Alex, you read 80% of this book without realizing that Starclan was their religion. And like
it wasn't made clear. I thought it was
worship.
just a clan that was in
That's
their
fair.
dreams.
It is kind of like at this point it stops being very much of a religion and more of like a faction.
Yeah, it felt, that's what I thought, because everything else is called something clan.
Yeah.
So it just, yeah.
Brambleclaw ignores the prophetic warning because that's a smart idea. And then they go to the Gathering, which is this thing that happens every full moon at Fourtrees, the big hollow in the center. And Leafpaw, who's Squirrelpaw's sister and Cinderpelt's apprentice, sits with Feathertail, Graystripe's daughter, Graystripe being Firestar's best friend, and then he was also like a traitor for a little while because he wanted to live in Riverclan with his kits, and then he came back to Thunderclan, and they were like, we forgive you for being a traitor, now you're the deputy. But yeah, his children are fully grown now, and it's Feathertail, and she fills her in on some of the goss going around the clans. There are some new cats who are like born into a rogue, and one of them is training to be a medicine cat, which everybody's really upset about for some reason. Also, Brambleclaw meets up with his sister, and she's like, I had the same dream as you. And so they secretly agreed to meet at Fourtrees during the new moon, and they're like, all right, maybe if there are other cats, they'll also want to meet at the new moon, because that is what the dream told us to do.
And then go and look for Midnight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they don't know that Midnight is a badger yet. That's like...
No, they just go off and search for whatever it is, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, they don't do that until Brambleclaw has like a second dream where he's at the beach.
Yeah.
and he's very scared of the beach. And then he wakes up. And so they meet the other cats, by the way. Squirrelpaw continues to antagonize him. And they meet up with the other cats at Fourtrees, and also Stormfur and Feathertail are there. And Feathertail's like, I had the same dream, and Stormfur is like, I didn't, but I want to be with her. My sister, by the way. Let's not confuse that for anything weird. And Brambleclaw is jealous that they have each other because he's like sad about not really having his own sister either because he didn't get to grow up with her. Also, there's a new cat called Crowpaw who he's like a Windclan cat, but he's not related to everybody else, so he's just kind of there and nobody really likes him very much. But yeah, they agree to meet after the next gathering to discuss things further, and then Brambleclaw has his beach dream, and he goes to Ravenpaw, who happens to be there. Ravenpaw, by the way, I don't know if you picked up on who Ravenpaw was, Alex, because that might have been a little obscure.
No, not really.
So Ravenpaw, you remember Brambleclaw's fascist dad, right?
Yeah.
So Ravenpaw was Tiger Star's first apprentice in Thunderclan, but what happened was Ravenpaw saw Tiger Star kill another one of the cats before everybody knew that he was evil, and so Tiger Star was like, all right, I gotta kill Ravenpaw so he doesn't tell anybody. And then Firestar and Graystripe basically put him in the witness protection program, and they send him off to live on a farm. And they tell everybody that Ravenpaw has secretly died, but then once the cat is out of the bag about Tiger Star being evil, they go back and talk to Ravenpaw a whole bunch because he's like a friendly guy who's off being gay on a farm. It's delightful. Okay. But yeah, Ravenpaw is there, and he has a chat with Firestar about some stuff, and he's like, yeah, the beach is real. It's terrible. The sun drowns over there. And Brambleclaw is like, oh, I'm so scared. So Brambleclaw is like finally like, okay, maybe there's more to this than I assumed. So he meets with the other chosen cats. He arranges a date for the four of them, and also Stormfur is there to set off towards the sea. And then back in Thunderclan, Cinderpelt sees an omen about tiger and fire coming together to destroy the forest or something like that.
Yep.
So she workshops it with Firestar, and through the power of genre savviness, they decide to keep Squirrelpaw and Brambleclaw apart because, that always works.
No, they don't. They don't know what it means, though, do they?
They don't.
They think an actual tiger and an actual fire was going to destroy the forest.
Yeah.
Initially, which I don't understand, because if his dad is called Tiger, whatever, why would they not just assume he's alive somehow?
Well, they did watch him die.
I mean, it's a book, though.
That's fair.
No one's ever actually dead.
That's fair. There is always cat hell, which...
Exactly. I say exactly. I don't know. Is there?
Yes, there is cat hell.
Oh, okay.
It's very cool. And it's basically the same as Starclan, except for that instead of it being bright and full of stars, it's dark, and that's it.
Oh.
So, there's... it's not really a punishment. It's just a dark place. But yeah, there's the fun prophecy about Tiger and Fire, and Firestar is like, all right, let's keep my two children apart so that they don't try to, destroy the forest or whatever. Then basically Brambleclaw and Squirrelpaw get angry, and so they go off, and everybody's like, oh, I think they eloped. And Firestar is like, wait, the prophecy didn't say that they were going to destroy the forest. It just said that the forest was in trouble and they had something to do with it. So that was a little bit dumb of him. The prophecy cats have left now. They're staying the night in Barley's farm, and they've embarked on their journey. They encounter some trials, some troubles, and some tribulations. Leafpaw finds herself attracted, back in the clan, the medicine cat apprentice Leafpaw is like, oh my god, who's Mothwing? She's hot. And everybody else in the clan is like, I don't like Mothwing because her mom was a rogue. And that means that if she's not clan born, so she can't be a medicine cat, because otherwise she won't understand anything about Starclan. Which, the more I think about it, the more that might actually be good reasoning, considering how long it took for Alex to figure out that Starclan was the cat heaven.
I'm not actually in the universe, though. I'm just a human who read most of a book.
That's true. So, there's Mothwing, Leafpaw, and all the other medicine cats go to the Moonstone, which is the big rock that they all go to receive prophetic dreams from Starclan.
Yeah.
Mothwing she becomes a real medicine cat. The prophecy cats learn how to get along a little bit better. And they all start to receive their own omens from Starclan that indicate that they're going from the right way. Except for Crowpaw, who is just not having a good time because he doesn't really get along with everybody. The forest...
They have a dream about tasting salty water.
They do have it, yeah.
Is that a little bit later?
That's the whole thing, is that, Bramble...
Is that going to the sea?
Yeah, Brambleclaw is whoa, this water is so salty. And then it happens to each one of them individually, and they're like, oh, it's a sign from Starclan that says that we're going the right direction. So yeah, Leafpaw, back in the clan, Leafpaw spends a lot of time worrying about her sister. The clans start to realize that a bunch of cats have gone missing for no reason. And Leafpaw uses some of her sister telepathy powers to help them with the issues that they're encountering far afield, which they have, by the way, for some reason.
Yeah, I have some questions about the nature of the magical powers of these cats.
It's very strange. The prophecy cats encounter some dangers in the two-leg place that they're currently in, and they meet an old cat called Purdy who offers to take them to the sea. They run into rats, they run into dog, they don't find very much prey, but eventually Crowpaw becomes so exhausted that he doesn't even bother with being a little brat anymore. And then they find the two-leg place, and they're all friends again. They go on a little frolic in the forest. Squirrelpaw finds some medicine that she learned about thanks to her sister telepathy. And then they discover, finally, the beach, and Brambleclaw has his prophetic drowning that he had been dreaming about for so long. After he's done drowning, he's rescued by Squirrelpaw. They find themselves in this cave that looks like it's surrounded by teeth. And then from the back of the cave, there's a badger coming out, and she's like, hey, what's up? My name is Midnight. How are you guys doing? I'm Midnight. I can talk.
It's not just talk to cats. The Midnight can talk to multiple different animals, can't
Yeah, it's really weird. It's cool. I kind of like that. But she's Midnight. She can talk. She's like, all right, clan cats. Starclan spoke to me. They were like, yeah, the two legs are going to destroy your home so that we can build the new inner space bypass, and the cats all have to evacuate or else you're going to die. And then once they get back, they must meet, and a dying warrior will show them the way. That's another prophecy they gotta worry about. Yay! The prophecy cats are dismayed, but they are brought comfort by knowing that they will all stay together and that Starclan has chosen them. They decide to spend the night at Midnight's Den and set off back to the forest the next day. And then we get a scene back at the forest camp as like an epilogue, and it's a bunch of monsters destroying and ripping up trees and stuff. And that is the end of the first book of the next series. So Alex, how did you feel about that reading experience?
I was very confused. I think I've made that clear.
Yeah.
But also, I have some significant questions about the feasibility of the plot. Because I read that it's meant to be set in the New Forest, which is 566 kilometers squared.
Yes.
Which is really big.
Cats can go a long distance.
More that the entire New Forest is going to be destroyed for one road.
Yes.
Now, the New Forest is full of roads.
What are you talking
already,
about? No, it isn't.
Including, I think, the M3.
Yeah.
And it has multiple towns inside. So I'm a little bit confused as to why they'd have to leave instead of just very slightly relocate.
That's what I was wondering about. Because, like, the last book had, like, a bunch of... Or the Firestar's Quest had a lot of traveling stuff as well. And there were, like, forests that they encountered along the way. Like, it doesn't make sense that they would just, like, all right, this forest is dead, can it? Unless the forest was actually just a whole lot smaller than we thought it was, which very well could be the truth.
But it is specifically meant to be the New Forest.
It is based on the New Forest. There are a lot of, like, topographical and geographical falsities that put it very clearly not in the actual human physical New Forest, but it was based on it. Like, for example, in the last book, there was a description. This was part of our discussion, but it got cut in a previous episode. But there was a description of a peat smell coming from the Windclan border, which indicates that there would be peat there, or at least peat nearby.
Which I think there is.
The New Forest. Would the New Forest have it? Because that's, like, for the most part.
Yeah, it's quite boggy, some areas of it.
Okay.
The New Forest has really big areas of wide open like marshland. It has
rivers.
Huge lakes in that people sail on and stuff. It's really big. Now, the reason I'm confused about that is that the New Forest is a conservation area, like really, really conservation area, because it's been the New Forest since 1079.
Yeah.
So I was a bit confused as to how they could, how conceivably it would be destroyed.
I think so. The next part of the arcs presumably takes place in an area based off of the Scottish Highlands.
So they're relocating from the New Forest to the Scottish Highlands.
Yes, they're traveling across the entirety of England and taking all...
That is 800 miles.
100 cats with them. It's ridiculous. I think that, feasibly, if we were to put it into actual... I don't know, if we were to say this physically happened in the real world, which might be a bit of a stretch, but I would say that while it might have been based on the New Forest, the actual clans would have happened, like, elsewhere, still in the Scottish Highlands, just in a different part. Maybe a smaller forest in between a few villages.
It could reasonably be like Sherwood and Nottingham. That's at least half the way there.
Yeah,
it's a big forest.
Something like that. I mean, like, here's the cats in ththese books don't really travel and work like real cats do. I always like to imagine that this is kind of like, I don't know, this book these are chronicles of a species in early sapience and how they would interact with the world like ours. Like, obviously, I don't think that's what they intended, but that's like how I kind of like to interpret it sometimes. And these cats, I would say, like, the biggest thing that they have learned is the power of language. The fact that these cats, and like organization and communication. In the real world, cats are very solitary critters. Some of them do have absolutely enormous roving ranges. You can look at studies where people have been like geotagging stray cats and stuff. And generally, like, some of them will like have, I don't know. I never know how to pronounce the word hectares. Like acres. Hectares.
Hectares.
Okay.
Yeah. Or hectares.
Some cats will have like absolutely ridiculously long ranges that they will travel within. And really the only constricting thing is that for the most part, they will be centered around human buildings because they are, whether they like it or not, domesticated.
Yeah, so where I used to live in Norfolk, I lived on a farm and it was like 40 by 40 miles, this farm. It was really big. And we had loads of a really big clan of stray cats who lived in one of the barns, and they'd go all over the estate. So that's not that big, but it's 40 miles.
Did they get along very
Not
well?
with my cats, but they all lived together.
That's nice of them. If you had
they were all shot.
If you had to choose a warrior cat's name for them, or maybe okay, let's say Alex. What warrior cat name do you think that you would have?
Piss whiskey. No, I don't know.
If you want, I can find you. You can read some suggestions off of Yahoo Answers.
Okay, I assumed that it was just two words put together because that really seems like what it is.
Well, I think there's
one of them is usually vaguely cat related, so that's what piss, because cats piss.
Cats do
and then
piss.
whiskey.
You are correct. I don't think that cats would have a conception of whiskey. Though. Like that, I think that's part of it is that it has to be something that cats would have a conception of. So you wouldn't be able to call a cat Old Deuteronomy because cats have never read the Bible. And if you wanted to name a cat the magical Mr. Mistopheles, you would run into a few other issues because cats have not read the Bible and they wouldn't know who Mephistopheles is.
Or the plague cats.
Or with Skimbleshanks, the railway cat. You wouldn't be able to... Skimble, I think, is a word that would mean to, it refers to clumsiness.
Oh.
But cats don't have a conception of knives, so I don't think that you would be able to say, shanks. You might be able to be Skimble Strike or Skimble Claw or something like that, but not Skimble Shank.
That's okay, I didn't want to be.
So with those guidelines in mind, what do you think your warrior's cat's name would be?
Pushing things off the edge of stuff. Whisk piss.
Whiskey piss. All right, we'll workshop that later. What clan do you think you would be in? Do you think you'd have a clan out of the ones displayed here?
I think I'd be in one of them.
Yeah. Who do you identify with the most?
I can only remember Shadowclan and Thunderclan. Oh yeah, Riverclan and Windclan is the other.
Yes, so they're the cats that can run fast or get wet. That's their special
I like
thing.
Riverclan.
All right. So pushing things off of the edge, piss whisker of Riverclan.
Yep.
All right. That's a great cat name. I'm glad we've worked that out. So, what are the questions that you have in regards to the magic of this world? Because you have you've expressed discontent.
Yeah. Why are the cats magic? It's clearly meant to be set in the real world, just from the cat's perspective, which is another thing I didn't realize. I thought it was some fantasy world.
No, this isn't Redwall.
Previously. So why are they magic? Cats aren't magic. I'm pretty sure.
I think by this point, so there were some magic aspects of the first arc, but there was always to some extent a plausible deniability that it was just the cats hallucinating. Or that, it was to some extent an extension of their belief that they could, do these things and have these powers and dreams.
Right.
But by this point they do kind of just throw it out the window and say, all right, Starclan is real. How wacky can we get? so basically it starts off pretty organically in these books with the idea that a leader has 9 lives. Because it's
actually 9 lives.
Yes, and that's the thing. Every cat has regular amounts of lives except for the leaders. Because when a cat is appointed leader of a clan, they are met by Starclan, and those cats...
Given some extra lives.
Yeah, basically they're approached by 8 cats that were close to them in their life, and they will grant them 9 lives of their own. And there was always a slight sense of dubiousness over whether that was true, because in some cases the 9 lives thing didn't work out, and some cats would just die prematurely from sickness, or in one case one of them had all 9 of his lives ripped out of him from a particularly nasty cut. And that was the fascist.
That's
cat.
The opposite of plot armor.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of loved it within the context of that book, honestly. But yeah, so that was where it started. and then it kind of snowballed from there. So like in the books in between this, there were always going to be prophetic dreams. Like that was always a thing.
Okay, but what about like?
And Firestar had his ghost wife.
Like just in the prologue, I was immediately confused as to how they were creating images in water.
I think that's just like a part of heaven, you know. So that's going to have to be a thing that you accept within these books, that heaven is a real thing and it is only real for cats.
Were the cats in heaven? I thought the cats in the prologue were.
So they were Starclan cats in heaven.
I didn't.
And they were discussing amongst themselves in Starclan.
I swear it said that there were different cats.
Yeah. They were different.
Like different clans of cats.
Yes, so like in life they were different from different clans. So like the cats.
Oh, that's not helpful.
Look, you would have understood it if you read any of the prior books, Alex. But yeah, there's Bluestar, who used to be the leader of Thunderclan before Firestar was the leader. And there was Oakhart, who was the deputy of Riverclan, and Nightstar, who was the leader of Shadowclan, but he wasn't really the leader because of some other shenanigans. And then Deadfoot, who was the deputy of Windclan. And they were... in life, they were of these separate ilks, and then they were joined together in Starclan. But for some reason, a lot of the cats in Starclan are still like really uppity about clan loyalty and stuff.
Yeah, that's why I was confused, because why would you
care? That confuses me as well. I think that's a very...
Oh, good. I'm glad.
It's just a little bit stupid. I also find it interesting that like the Starclan cats all talk very differently from the regular cats. Like even like the regular cats could just be like having their regular conversations and stuff where they're like, Mothwing, it's good to see you. But then like as soon as they die, they immediately transcend into this other like linguistic code where they're like, oh, Wing of Moth, it brings me great pleasure to see you before my eyes, or something like that. I guess it makes sense that like the leaders in Starclan have like a certain ceremonious way of talking. But it just makes me wonder if like the Starclan cats ever talk to each other normally, or if they only like put on that voice whenever they're talking to the cats that are still like alive, so that they can maintain that mystique.
It really reminded me of Black Panther, the way the afterlife works. Well, now I understand that.
Black Panther is a valid warrior cat name, by the way.
I like push things off the edge of Piss Whisker.
Yeah, push things off the edge of Piss Whisker is a very good name. Nobody's arguing with that. Talking of like language, I think it is interesting that the whole like fact that Midnight knows how to talk to cats and false foxes and rabbits.
Was it rabbits? I thought it was something. I thought it was.
I've got the screenshot here. It says, "I have traveled far, and many tongues have learned." Midnight told him, "Tongues of other cats who speak not same as you. Of fox and rabbit also." She grunted. "They speak not of interest. Fox talk is all of kill. Rabbit has thistledown for brain." Which got me wondering, I don't think that many people who would... She doesn't know how to conjugate her sentences properly, but she knows the word thistledown.
I just clicked on her profile page on the wiki. She's been alive since the beginning of time.
What?
Midnight is a mysterious ancient badger that has been alive since the beginning of time.
What? Oh my gosh. Well, I guess that explains a lot about the things that she knows. It interested me when she said that like she understood maybe that's how the American badgers got to the
she's specified to be a European badger.
She's specified to be a European. Okay, so take that.
Yeah, it says she's Melis, which is European. Well, I was thinking about these badgers, and I did look it up. And badgers can be aggressive towards everything.
Yes.
If they have cubs.
Oh.
Even European badgers.
All right.
But usually, they run around like puppies. So.
All right, I'll pass that along to Clayton. Maybe we can get like a summit meeting at some point to discuss the. Hold on, I think there was just stabbing outside. That's interesting. All right, and that is going to do it for this week's episode of Fourtrees. In case any of you guys were worried, I did check up on the guy who got stabbed outside of the studio. Turns out it wasn't actually a stabbing, he just got bitten by a radioactive knife. They took him to the hospital, now he has superpowers, all the powers of a knife. It's a little bit confusing, conceptually speaking, and honestly terrifying on like a personal level, but I don't want to do anything about it because I'm not like that kind of criminal. I prefer other kinds of crimes, which are the kinds that Knife Man cannot legally persecute me for. So that's good. But if you are in Bristol and you do want to commit crimes, I would advise looking out for Nightman, because that guy, he's gonna mess you up. It's whack. But yes, back to the Fourtrees. This has been this week's episode of Fourtrees. Before I go, I would like to say a few things. For starters, I would like to take this opportunity to talk about a new Discord server that opened up. It's very relevant to my interests, and it might be relevant to yours as well. It's called Warriors 3D. It is a Discord server that is dedicated to discussing and modeling and animating characters and OCs from the Warrior Cat series in 3D. They have an active community working in plenty of 3D programs, from Blender to ZBrush to Maya, and all are welcome regardless of experience or lack thereof. I am there personally, so if you want to take an opportunity to tell me how bad you think my podcast is, then that would be the place to do it. And while you're there, you can also learn a lot of really cool stuff about 3D programs. I would know I'm there and I'm learning a lot, which is really fun. I'd also like to, I'll drop a link in the description of wherever you are watching/listening to this podcast. And the other thing I'd like to talk about is there was a video released recently by popular YouTuber Moon Kitty. Moon Kitty spelled with like 2 I's. Not like where the, whatever. I'm sure you'll be able to find her. That was all about a character in this book called Brambleclaw. I don't know if you've heard of him. We did not, so this episode was recorded before that video came out, I would first of all like to say, and second of all, we don't end up talking about any of the content in that video because it hadn't come out by the time we recorded this. Fourtrees is released with a little bit of a backlog so that I can focus on, my job and stuff, so what usually will end up happening is we won't be able to talk about the events that are happening concurrently within the Warrior Cats fan base, clandom, whatever you want to call it. And that's just a reality of it, unless we start doing episodes more frequently, which probably won't be facilitated unless I can somehow find a way to make this my living, which I don't particularly want to do. Then, yeah, we're not going to be able to talk about it. I haven't watched the video still, and I will not watch it because it contains spoilers for stuff that is happening way down the line. But, I have friends and mutuals who either don't care about spoilers or have already gotten there, and I get the gist of it. So it is the kind of thing that we'll be looking out for, and actually by coincidence and providence, it turns out me and Alex did end up talking about one of the topics in that video in the next episode, and I can promise that in future books and stuff, we will be keeping an eye out for breadcrumbs of this abusive relationship between Squirrelflight and Brambleclaw, and make a decision for ourselves as to how that actually does shake out. Because while I do trust Moon Kitty's literary analysis skills, I think she's very funny. And she brings up a lot of good points about this series that I wouldn't have been able to think about myself. I also want to read it for myself and come up with my own conclusions. And I'm not at a point now where I can say definitively, she's full of something. But I honestly believe that she's probably right about it. I just, don't want to be a mouthpiece regurgitating somebody else's opinion. Because this is Fourtrees, it's my podcast, and I get to choose the bad takes. But yeah, so we'll talk about the Moon Kitty stuff, and we'll talk about the Brambleclaw relationship as the relationship develops. And I guess we're put in a very fortuitous position where we can watch it develop and keep an eye out for these warning signs as they occur, which is pretty good, actually. I would prefer to be in that position than to be like looking back and realizing, wow, did I not notice that? Because I feel like that's a position that I'm going to be in when people start doing more literary discussion on these books. Like, I'm not the smartest person. I'm not the best literary critic in the world. And there's probably stuff that I've missed because if this episode has made anything clear, and this interview in general has made anything clear, there is so much happening in these books that I take for granted. Right? Like, there is, the whole concept of Starclan. I was like, oh yeah, it's Starclan, obvious. But Alex, he didn't get that it was like an ancestor worship and they still had ties to their old clans and stuff. So, yeah, whatever. This is getting a bit long, so I'll do the outro now. Just remember, this is a 2-part episode, so we will continue this discussion next week, and it will be the same discussion. And we will have other things to say, and they will be funny, and Alex is a great guest, my closest friend in the entire world. So please tune into that if you enjoyed this episode. And yeah, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening to Fourtrees, our Warrior Cats community podcast. I've been your host, Spencer Grant. I'd like to thank our guest, Alex, for joining us for the last little while. You have been a pleasure to have. Fourtrees is recorded live in front of a studio audience at Druids Hollow Studios here in Bristol. Our theme was composed and performed by Spencer Chopin Grant and mixed by, hey, would you look at that, Alex Turner. Our graphics and 3D assets were designed by Spencer Diablo Grant, and our editor is Spencer Pagliacci Grant. The Warrior Cat series is written by Erin Hunter and distributed by HarperCollins. Please support the official release. You can find us at the web at spencergrant.co.uk/Fourtrees or at anchor.fm/Fourtrees. Or you can find our YouTube channels with auto-generated subtitles and audio visualizations on my YouTube upload, Spencer Grant. And again, our podcast is available and will continue to be available on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Music, and generally wherever you get your podcasts. Again, I have been Spencer. You have been beautiful. Bye!